What's up, guys? It's Ben in Parts here. Welcome back to another episode of this Cryptid podcast where we break down cryptids, their sightings, their possibilities, what they could or couldn't be, and if they could be real or not. And this one today is fascinating because it was actually proven to be real. No one thought it existed. Everyone thought it was just an urban legend and it was just a rumour. And no, it absolutely proved to be real. It's a definite sign that people who dismiss cryptozoology, the study of creatures said to exist but not proven to exist, or said to exist in folklore, as just being irrelevant and just being a pseudoscience and just being a load of rubbish. They don't know what they're talking about because some of these have been proven real time and time again. The coelacanth was proven real, the mountain gorilla was proven real, and now this one. And yeah, this absolutely yells. This one just yells. You might be wondering, what does yells mean? Well, it's a new slang term that I came up with because it's like it yells out, as in like it yells out awesomeness, it yells out coolness, it yells out something that makes you feel a strong emotion. Shout out to my girl Shannon at Shannons_euphoria on Instagram, who helped me come up with this as a result of a typo she made, and we just came up with it just like that, and it's now official slang for us. But yeah, this one is absolutely yelling. It yells. And today we're going to talk about the snipe, a bird that was just thought to be an urban legend that no one actually thought existed. No one felt like they could prove, but it turned out to be absolutely real. And we're going to rely today, because I think it's an amazing book, on Henry H. Trion's Fearsome Critters for its description. And the book describes the snipe as a, quote, common bird, occasionally seen, but never yet caught. This was back when it was written almost a century ago. It was said that young foresters, engineers, cruisers, roadmen and apprentices had made many careful, quote, valiant attempts to get one, but despite the fact that they'd been given advice by seasoned hunters and despite the fact that they'd tried hard, no success was absolutely attained. He himself claimed he was taken on a snipe hunt and that he actually managed to get a good look at one of the birds, which strayed quite near to the bag he was holding. He claimed he couldn't get his hands on the bird, but he did have some time to study it a bit, and he found that his observations tied very closely with a report received from a Mr. Howard S. Gardner, who described the snipe as a bird of, quote, marvellous coloration, greens, blues, pinks, and little hints of gold here and there. He claimed it wore both, quote, fur and feathers, with the fur side and side, like the mudgekiwis. He claimed it was erect, about 17 centimetres high on two legs, but had a third, quote, auxiliary slightly aft, for use either as a stabiliser or as a starting mechanism. He claimed that the eyes were fired with a constant sulphurous glow, and occasionally, I'm not sure about this one, chiefs, occasionally emitting small showers of sparks. One pupil was vertical, one horizontal, and winking was done alternately, keeping the snipe on the alert constantly as if it was always scanning for danger. He claimed that the sharply hooked little beak was mounted on a bull wheel base like a steam shovel, which made it possible to capture insects without turning the head. Now, obviously, as you can imagine, people who were reading this at the time were kind of like, I'm not sure if the snipe's a real thing. I'm not sure it is. But lo and behold, it did turn out to be real. It's described these days as one of 26 wading bird species, characterised by a very long, slender bill, eyes that are high on the head, and a kind of camouflaged plumage. And the Gallinago snipes are distributed nearly worldwide. The Limnocryptes, not limnocryptids, snipe is restricted to Asia and Europe. And the Xenocorphia, the C-word snipes were found in the outlying islands of New Zealand. And there are also painted snipes, which are in their own family, and they do actually use that bill to hunt. They search for invertebrates in the mud with their long bills, and they tend to dwell in and around water. They tend to behave a little bit similar to sandpipers, and they feed mainly on insect larvae, but some also prey on snails, crustaceans, and worms. And the snipe's bill does indeed allow the tip to remain closed while the snipe slurps up and drinks invertebrates, either in bogs, swamps, wet meadows, or along rivers. And in the old days, there were indeed snipe hunts. Back in the day, both before and after the snipe was proven to have been real, people would go on a, quote, snipe hunt, a kind of practical joke or fool's errand, where a newcomer was duped into catching an elusive, non-existent snipe, allegedly non-existent back in the 1840s, until it was proven to exist in the 20th century. So when someone was new to the area, you'd go, hey man, want to come on a snipe hunt with us? Sure, dude, that sounds radical. And it would be radical, because that person would end up spending radical amounts of time traipsing through the undergrowth while everyone else laughed at them, trying to find this supposedly non-existent snipe. The person would be given some instructions. They'd be told to go to an outdoor spot, wait in the dark, hold an empty bag, or make some kind of strange noise to attract the creature. Meanwhile, the people who had lured the person to this place to try and catch it would either hide and laugh their asses off, or leave the newcomer alone in the woods to discover in the end that it was a joke. And it was actually, in fact, so prolific was this snipe hunt that it was an American rite of passage, often associated with summer camps, often done by the Boy Scouts, often done as a kind of initiation. In France, there was... French? Where is French? In France, a similar joke was done called hunting the dahout, and the dahout was said to be a creature that stood at the bottom of a slope, and that the person stood at the bottom of the slope, and the dahout was a deer-like being that would be at the top, and it would roll down if it slipped, and you would catch it in your bag. It's very much like a goat. In fact, it looks exactly like a mountain goat. In fact, some would say that the dahout is a mountain goat, but that's a whole other discussion for a whole other time. The point is that it was a kind of beloved American rite of passage for all kinds of initiations. It was, it was the American equivalent of the English wild goose chase. In camp life and in children's folklore, the snipe hunt was basically an opportunity to make fun of newcomers, while also building a kind of rapport by accepting them into the group. And of course, the stage was set for the prank by imaginative descriptions of the snipe. It's said to resemble a jackrabbit and a squirrel-like bird with one red and one green eye, a small black furry bird-like animal which would only come out during the full moon, to be like some kind of mixture of a bird and another creature. According to the American Folklore and Encyclopedia, while the snipe hunt is known in virtually every part of the United States, the description of the prey varies. It may be described as a type of bird, a snake, or a small furry animal. In one version, the snipe is a kind of deer with a distinctive call. The dupe is left kneeling and imitating the snipe call while holding the bag to catch it. And in another variation of this, a bag supposedly containing a captured snipe would be theatrically brought into the middle of the campsite after a group hunt, and the snipe would, quote, escape unseen when the bag's opened. Of course, it would, quote, escape unseen in the dark when no one could actually confirm it had escaped, and no one actually saw it leaving, but to the young, credulous minds of the Boy Scouts and the other people watching it, I imagine it was quite credible, and it would be accompanied by other further practical jokes such as, oh, do you see it over there? It ran that way, it escaped. And this seems to be a cross-cultural thing across all kinds of cultures, because in Spain there's a similar joke called cazar gasmusinos, which means hunting gasmusinos. And the gamusino is a imaginary animal that has absolutely no defined description whatsoever. It's used to play practical jokes and hazing, especially on children and young people, and it's often mentioned at summer camps. It's described in the Dictionary of the Spanish Language as an imaginary animal whose name is used to make jokes to novice hunters. You find the ganguazeno in Extremaduran, the Andalusian form gambosino, the Portuguese version gambosino, and the Doñet gambosi or gambuzzi in Catalan and Valencian. The dwarf so tiny it is barely visible is the version that was collected by the Catalan folklorist Juan Amades in his Costumari Catarra in 1950. And the latter in turn is related to the Provincial Gambosi or Gambozo. And in various regions of Spain, different names are used for different imaginary animals or characters similar to the Gambosino. In Asturias, there are talks of Cordobeos, Corzobeos, and the Bicharaco. In France, there's the Daho. In Germany, there's the Elvetrich. In the Wolpertinger in Bavaria. In Scotland, they have the wild haggis. In North America, there's the jackalope, the rabbit with the antlers. There's the side hill gouger in America and Canada, which I've done a video on before. But what do you guys think? Do any of you have any information about this? Do any of your old relatives have some funny folklore tales they've heard? Did any of them go on snipe hunts? Have any of you had any tales passed down in your family? Please post those in the comment section below. It would be amazing to read them. And I hope you stay tuned for the next episode.